Let's get into it. So Vlad Jr. coming into spring training, the reports were, let's get an extension done now. I want to get paid a lot. But if you don't, for the Blue Jays, don't worry about it. I'm leaving next offseason. They didn't come to an agreement. No extension was made. He's expected to hit free agency next offseason. And you see it on your screen. When Vlad was asked if the Blue Jays were close, Vlad Guerrero Jr. said his one-word answer was no. He said he would re-sign in free agency and wants to be a Blue Jay for life. So that's what's interesting. But he also said that for now, he just simply wants to get paid. This is a guy that is owning the moment, creating leverage and saying, I want to be a Blue Jay for life, but I'm here from 29 other teams. His righty bat at Fenway, and all of that he said in the past, I like Boston. It looks good to me. His righty bat at Fenway, Kasey, would be absurd. I mean, the guy hits absolute moonshots. His average is 390 feet to left, let alone 310 feet, which Fenway is. And he would just basically make them put a new roof on House of Blues. That's how many home runs he would hit. But he wants to get $500 million total value. That's what makes it interesting. What do you make of Vlad Jr. saying, I'm going to go to free agency, but also, hey, Boston, I got my eye on you. I'd like to play there as well.
Well, I think after the Bregman news last week and locking that in, I'm sure Red Sox fans would be like, yeah, bring him here. I mean, I've seen tweets before, bring Vladdy Daddy to Boston, all these things. So I'm sure it would be a benefit. And you mentioned it, what he does and being able to do that in Fenway, adding that to the caliber of this roster would just be stupid. But I get nervous with these kind of things because it's one of those moments where the threat is out there and the money is kind of the finish line. The money is the focal point here. To turn down 380, what it was back in December, and looking to be north of 400, as you just mentioned, you've got to see a lot of other things come into play here. And then you got to wonder, was this just a threat for the Blue Jays to lock him in? Blue Jays have had their worst season this past year since 2019, but more importantly, his production was still there. So the money is well earned, but I feel like a lot of this conversation might be revolving around the fact that when you see another athlete get paid like Soto and some other guys, you start wanting to kind of get into that category. And I feel like the negotiations are going to get a little crazy outside of that. Don't you feel like these Soto deals and stuff like that have kind of pushed the pencil on where these guys can land on the contracts?
Exactly. Juan Soto is, the best bat in baseball, let alone best left-handed bat. He's an okay outfielder at best, but that's a guy that you sign and you live with him being your designated hitter because he can be so dang good at the bat. He's the best hitter, point blank, period. But Vlad Jr. is not a Juan Soto. Yes, he's a righty. He's opposite of Soto. Yes, he hits a ton of home runs. He's had over 100 the last 4 seasons, 870 OPS. He's a 4-time All-Star. But the $400 to $500 million total, that's getting into first baseman contracts with the great bat, not DH contracts. And since 2018, he is last for qualified first basemen, for runs prevented, and last in outs above average as well. He's not a good fielder. So that's where he wants this big number, but he's a one-way player, and really his strength is his bat. And bats like his don't get $400 or $500 million. Juan Soto just reset the market all around. I see that $700 million, and he sees it and go, I'd be a bargain at 4. I'll hit the home runs. I'll get runs on the board. But I just don't think it's going to completely shift that way, especially Juan Soto, about to be 26, still not even in his prime, where Vlad is up there in age a few more years, and just Juan Soto is a more dynamic bat and give you just serviceable in the outfield, where Vlad is the worst by the metrics defensive first baseman in MLB.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with that. That's exactly what I meant in terms of I just feel like some of these market contracts are going to make these guys try to hold out, and he's going to have a better bargaining deal. I feel like trying to reserve his spot with the Blue Jays and get him to pay him the money because he still helped the Blue Jays after a terrible season. 100 plus home runs and stuff, but then you've also got the fact that where else is going to pay that money? And I don't think the Red Sox are going to be that team because I think they're still trying to be strategic. And then the other week when we were talking with Devin, there's a lot of hope in the development for this Red Sox team. So is it something that I'd be jumping at? Not particularly so, but I still think I've seen a number of fans that's yeah, bring Vladdy to Boston. And for him to name Boston to want to be here, I feel like that's going to mix things up a bit.
Yeah, it's been the reports. We saw Bob Nightingale say Boston has emerged as the favorite to land Vlad Jr. as well, to get with the Red Sox. This is, as you see it on the screen, 8.5 months from his free agency. So the Red Sox absolutely just crushed their offseason, and now the talks about the future offseason. But Kasey, with a lot of this, it's, all right, Vlad Jr., you want to come to Boston. Now this is the true, where does he fit? Tristan Casas right now is about to enter his 3rd season playing for the Sox. Last season was lost to injury. When we've seen him as a full-time first baseman, He's been down there in outs above expected and runs prevented with Vlad Jr. Like, he's not the just good, let alone great defensive first baseman you want, but great bat, patient, has power, doesn't chase outside of the zone a ton, and just gets on base. Like, has everything you want in a professional hitter, but we've yet to see him, as injuries have affected him, put together. They could emerge as a favorite, but who is that saying that? Is that the Red Sox? I think that's Vlad Jr.'s agent. And by that drives up the Blue Jays of, we can't lose him to the division rival. This is the source game. This is Vlad. His priority is getting paid. His priority, in my opinion, right now is not to play in Boston. It's to get that payday. And he's going to use the Red Sox as leverage through reports to get paid by the Blue Jays or someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a driving force. I mean, to have the confidence to be up there and say they're going to compete with 29 other teams, and that's your closing statement, and that's the end of it. And I know that some of the conversation before the Bregman signing was like, Red Sox have the pockets for this. So I feel like that was also a tactic in a sense to say there's a team out there that we think can pay for this and think can afford this, and they would jump at the opportunity to work with me. Like, why not you? But 480, I think, is the last number I saw. Is that what you saw?
It's at 400. 400's too rich for me. But yeah, it's 400 to 500 million. Like 480, it's so much money. Look,
Yeah.
A lot of home runs, very powerful bat, is a game changer. But that's a lot of money. That's a lot for a DH. He's a guy that should be a DH.
If they brought him in, where do you think everyone would move around position wise? Like, what would make the most sense?
Man, we can't even get out of spring training with the lineup, let alone I got to think next season. But if you think of like a Christian Campbell's on track, say if a Roman Anthony's ready to have a full season in the outfield, Sedane, Trevor, what's Rafi, what's Casas? That's like, if he was to come to Boston, you keep this roster as is. He's the DH in my opinion. He does not replace a Tristan Casas at first base. But it's just, there's so many ways that is when you truly have to figure out your lineup. He adds a lot of power, righty bat, perfect for Fenway, but it has to be perfect. And I think the price has to be perfect as well. Because keep in mind, if Christian Campbell's starting, he has a swing made for Fenway. Roman Anthony has to come further along on catching up or breaking balls in MLB. They got to get through spring training now. Man, throwing that on me, it's just, that's what gets all this churning. I have no idea to answer. Honestly, he's a DH, but then where's everyone else? I don't know, Case. I don't know.
No, I only threw that at you because I'm thinking to myself, that would be a lot of movement that would have to take place to bring him in, as well as spending the money on him. And I don't know that that's the smartest thing when you're thinking like big picture or long term. And I feel like that was kind of a theme with some things coming in. So it doesn't make sense. It's flattering that he's looking at Boston or using them as a bait switch in the contract negotiation. But I only put you in the hot seat because you made it make sense, George.
Some way, somehow, I did it.